Constantine, a Hellblazer podcast.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Hell Talk. As always, I am joined by my co-host, Hoku.
Hi, everyone.
And today we're going through Hellblazer 157 to 167. And wow, this is like the middle good chunk of Brian Azzarello's run. It's supposedly, according to a lot of people, has the best story arc of his run in it. So we'll get into that. But
John is loose in America.
he is on the run, I guess on the run, technically, in America. He is hard traveling across the USA. He goes from the South, which is where like Good Intentions was, all the way to Washington, which is where High Water is. So he goes all the way across America in this. So yeah, just overall, what'd you think of this chunk?
It's a lovely little cross-country tour with John at the forefront doing John things, which is, never a bad time.
Yeah. And the way Azzarello writes John is kind of different than we've seen him. I think it's because he is kind of like a fish out of water in America. But he just chills out. He'll let people do stuff that he normally would like call out in England. But he just sits back and he watches someone do something horrible and then figures out a way to get them back and get out of the situation at the same time. That's what I noticed about Azzarello's run a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's very much sort of like passively observing until he decides to make his move, which is different than the John of like, shoot first or, magic first. Ask questions later. This is more of a let things unfold and then just sort of like come in there from behind and just be like, yeah, I got you now.
Yeah, well, I mean, he has been known to like, okay, if the First of the Fallen does something to him, he is a reactor. Like most of the time he's not doing magic to get ahead of the curve or whatever. Like he's not putting up walls and stuff unless he's hiding from someone that's actively looking for him. So he does, work on his back foot a lot of the time, but not in this way. I'll say like normally it's like something happens and he immediately goes into hiding, comes up with a plan, does some magic, gets back or whatever. But this is like, all right, I'm going to see what happens in this racist group of people, and then pretend I'm with them and then let the hell rain down after I figure out how to do that. So
it's definitely an incognito sort of like guy undercover feeling, which is different than what we've seen with John.
Yeah. I agree, but I don't think it's out of character just because he is like a fish out of water, like I said, in America. And he doesn't have his usual support network, right? So it's kind of all on him and his magic to figure out how to get out of these situations that he finds himself in without, Chaz or, anybody else he would use or his usual like, oh, I need this relic or something. It's like, okay, well, that's in England, so where you can't use that one. So
yeah, plus the time he jumped the gun in the arc we just finished, when he tried to be the hero, it turns out he didn't actually need to save anybody. So maybe he was also learning from that situation to like not just jump full on into I need to save these people or, prevent something. Maybe he's just sort of like testing the waters and seeing how things play out. And then after he realizes, okay, all these people are horrible. Let me see what I can do to sort of like rectify this situation.
Yeah. I will say the first like one shot that kind of starts this off is interesting. I mean, it's a weird way to like start it off because I actually forgot when I read this originally that Agent Turo was part of the storyline because he doesn't appear in Good Intentions. And I just saw him, he lets John out of the prison and then he gives him a name. And I thought that was the last we're going to see of him. And then he comes back. I'm like, wait, who's this guy at this bar? It's like, oh, that's Agent Turo. So he's kind of like he stops by when he feels like John needs direction, I guess we'll say.
Yeah, almost like his handler in a way.
Yeah, there you go. So this little one shot, it's kind of like two separate stories. It's Turo telling John where to go and John being angry that Turo's there, but also going with it. And then three guys at the bar behind them that are talking about a dude that might be dead, or they think thought was dead, but he's not dead because he's a mercenary in Africa, murdering people and stuff. What would you think of that one?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of had the weird feeling of like, I don't know if you read the Harry Potters, but when they find out that the rat is actually that dude, because he recognizes him, and that's what gets Sirius Black to break out of prison to be like, oh, that fucking rat was the guy who. It kind of had that feeling to it, where it's one of those where like, I thought we left him for dead. Oh no, he's actually still alive, and is he gonna come for us? Like. I kind of assumed that they were like they had killed this guy, or at least they thought they did, and yet somehow he's alive. I really had no idea what that guy was going to do, if he was just going to like come back for revenge after being a mercenary for who knows how many years. It was a weird juxtaposition between John having this random conversation and these guys being like, oh my God, this guy who killed or who we killed is going to come back for us, or what? It was weird.
I thought it was like an interesting way because, okay, you can't just have an issue where, I mean, I guess you could, but it'd be harder to have an issue where John just talks to Turo for the whole thing at a bar and has to get convinced. But if we intercut between this group of guys who are like, we're horrible people, we've killed people, but so did this guy, and now we're scared of him, kind of thing. I thought it was fun. Also, it's drawn by Steve Dillon, R.I.P. From the Garth Ennis run. It was I was like, oh, this looks glorious. But it's it's not. I mean, I like Marcelo Fruscian, but like something about just Steve Dillon's version of John makes me happy. So that's nice. And it kind of did feel like this could be like a Garth Ennis issue, just like that whole split story of the guys at the bar, and then like something really fucked up is happening behind them, but they don't know. Or maybe they do know because like at the end John's like, oh, they're back there or whatever. Like or he says like dead and buried, and then it's like, oh, the guy that's supposed to be dead and buried like comes in and John holds the door open for him. So like I think this was actually like a fun issue to me. I don't know if you felt the same about it, but
I mean, it was kind of interesting because it's like, did John sense that he was coming, or in a way, did he somehow summon him because he heard what those guys were talking about? I don't know. It really leaves it open-ended. But yeah, it was a weird story, but it did have that sort of cheeky John-ness to it.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It like reminds me because it does have that bit of John in it. Did you remember Agent Turo was part of the story? I know I kind of mentioned it throughout, I think, the Good Intentions arc, where I'm like, remember, Turo sent him here. So I don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
Your reminders, I remembered who he was, but if I had probably been reading it, it might have taken me a minute to remember him. I did really wonder what he was referring to with the underage girl, though. That was.
Yeah, I don't know what that means either. I don't know exactly. I mean, the only thing I can think is in the arc after Freeze is over, there's wait, is it that one? No, it's not. Maybe I'm thinking of, where's the one where like, is that in the Warren Ellis run where there's like, he's in the band and there's the girl that he sleeps with who opens the book of.
Oh, isn't that right after this, but before High Water? But before Freeze is over?
Oh, yes, you're right. I'm sorry. It is the 2-issue arc. I forgot that's the B story of the 2-issue arc. Yeah. So I think maybe that's what he's talking about. Like, because he was in a punk band and he was this age and she was in high school or something.
I don't know. He said that she was so young she like got her first period and she was like 12 or something. So I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about. He doesn't expand in it. I think, that's just Azzarello being edgy and throwing stuff out.
Yeah. But is he saying that John did something, or that the guy that they're after did something with this girl.
If I had to guess, it'd have to be not John. It'd have to be the guy because SW Manor is supposed to be like a horrible person, and we get to see a little bit of that in High Water.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's just a little bit of it. So, yeah, I don't really know. It was a little confusing. I wasn't fully sure. That's, sometimes the writers are hit and miss with their concepts about, especially when they just throw one line out like that and you're like, wait, how am I supposed to take this? So, but anyway.
It's so mysterious.
Yeah, exactly. But this is what I can assume. I mean, we can assume that John, even though he's a bastard, in all of these stories and stuff, he generally hasn't done anything like that. He's not sexually assaulting people underage or whatever. So I wouldn't say that he does that. In the same way that, like, I've heard people be like, oh, like in High Water, John is racist. He's like allowing people to talk openly about racism and he seems to be agreeing with them. And they don't understand, but I'm like, but obviously we know that he's not because of the 40 issues, or I'm sorry, 140 issues before. So like, we're just going to have to assume that he's not, and he knows what's happening. And then by the end of High Water, yeah, that's confirmed. Like, we know that he was just playing along to get along kind of thing.
Yeah. Really get why people would think that just because in one particular moment he doesn't automatically go, hey, you guys are wrong.
Yeah.
That all of it racism, when he's literally in the heart of a group of people who have particular beliefs that he's trying not to get murdered. So
yeah, and he's, like I said, a fish out of water, so he's not going to just join in. Or like say that to them, like, hey guys, you're wrong. Black people are fine. He's gonna slay low and maybe have to like, yeah, sure, dudes, like here's a round on me, and then figure out what to do. Yeah. So anyway, we get from that bodies issue where it's like the dead guy comes back to the bar to freezes over. And I didn't know where this was at the time. Apparently this is supposed to be in the middle of America. I gave him a southern accent because I thought it was still in the South, but that's cool.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah. But the one that really messed me up was the bartender's wife. They don't reveal that she's Filipino, like from the Philippines, until the end of the run or of that arc. And I'm like, well, I did not do a Filipino accent or any kind of accent for her other than Southern. So,
hey, she adopted an American accent. You never know.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. You know what? She just leaned really hard into it. She got it. So, but yeah, the Freezes Over arc is considered, like, by a lot of people, the best arc of the Brian Azzarello run. So,
really,
yeah, I honestly, I don't feel that way. I'm different. It's not bad, but it's just like there's things I'm like, I don't quite understand what exactly happened here.
I don't understand why it was so long.
Yeah, right? Because it had to be, and it was only 4 issues. It wasn't even 6. So
I mean, but still, I feel like 4 issues was kind of long for the setup that they were eventually applying.
Yeah, like it needed to be, like it could have been 2.
3 at the most, but 4 seemed a bit much, when I also feel like they didn't really give us much. Like, what were they really building to, Like, there didn't seem to be a lot of character development beyond what we learned about each person, and not even that much about the guys who were keeping the place hostage, really, in the end.
Yeah, all we know is that they robbed something and they are on the run.
Killed somebody, and then that guy got shot. Honestly, it was like Reservoir Dogs,
Yeah, kind of. It's probably supposed to be something similar to that. But that one was actually hard, too, because there was like 400 people I had to do voices for and remember for 4 issues. So.
Plus the whole group in the bar and everyone who got stuck in the storm, which, okay, so I will say that I had different expectations, completely different expectations for this story, based on the fact that there is a Sandman story very similar. It's towards the end of the Sandman run where it's called World's End and it's a bar called World's End. And a lot of people get caught in a crazy, what they consider world ending snowstorm or just, storm in general. But the people who get caught at this bar come from different places in time and space. So I was expecting some sort of a crossover with that, honestly. That it being more than just, oh, these people are stuck literally in their particular time in this snowstorm in that specific time and place. I thought it was going to be a bit more far reaching and almost a connection with that Sandman story.
Oh, okay. That would have been cooler, probably.
When it went on and it turned out to just be these people stuck in this snowstorm, and then John shows up and, oh, this guy is dead for some reason. And then they're like, but it's the snowman or Iceman or what was his name?
I don't remember.
This was the killer.
Yeah. The Iceman, I think it's supposed to be, I think.
And the guy who kills people with icicles or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so who and then they go back to the story of, I know it's not funny, but I think it's funny, of like, this guy and all his friends were murdered and he's the only survivor, so obviously he lived to tell the tale, and then he disappears, and it's like, so then was he the killer or what? And then it's just,
I think that's what they're implying at the end, like either he was the killer the whole time or he was possessed by the Iceman, but I think it's that he was the killer the whole time.
I would imagine so. Anyway, I mean, it was fine, I guess, if you like thrillery whodunits with a weird sort of John interjection. But as far as it being the best story in this run, when we just came from the whole like prison insanity, I would say I liked the prison insanity more than this weird little segue.
I did too. Yeah, I like that one as well. Yeah, Freezes Over. I'm just like I even heard when I was, when I first started reading Hellblazer, people were like, pick an author you like and just start with their run. And I'm like, okay. And I picked Azzarello because I liked 100 Bullets and other stuff he'd written. So I read Hard Time. I don't even remember if I read Good Intentions, but I know I read Freezes Over as well. And I was like, yeah, it was cool, but like it didn't really do anything for me. And I think what it is this one is the one that doesn't have anything to do with the rest of the story arc of Azzarello's run. Like, this is just like kind of like a 4-issue little stopgap in between the stories, right?
Yeah, he's just passing through. This is just him going from point A to point B, and this is his A and a half of like, oh, I got stuck in a snowstorm walking. I realized that he was also sort of immortal in that sense, where he doesn't feel cold or can just walk through snowstorms.
Yeah, blizzards.
Like that was kind of weird in itself, of him being like, yeah, I can also just walk my way through the American wilderness and snowstorms and be fine because I don't need to like hitch rides or anything. And that premise in itself was already just kind of weird.
Yeah, I think, I remember when we were doing the Warren Ellis run and he just kind of appeared in situations as needed. We were like, is that his power?
Yeah, he got some powers in this. I mean, his suggestive power kind of was brought in during the prison where he had the smudges or the pets. But in this one, it was literally just his like power of suggestion, which what was that an Azzarello sort of addition of him just being able to like, hey, you know what? Dude who I just brought out into the wilderness, who apparently just really believes in this Iceman theory. Guess what? You're the Iceman now. And the guy's just like, oh my God, I'm the Iceman now. And
I think that's what it is. I think the Iceman was a legend and John created the real Iceman, I guess, by just suggestion.
Okay, so the guy when he was a kid found the bodies that were snowmen, and they melted, and then eventually he's like, "Oh my God, I found the Iceman's bodies that the guy had killed." So I don't think that that kid, and then eventually the older guy, who I forget his name, was the Iceman. I think he just really believed in the legend. He obviously had experience of this dude, whoever it was that was killing people, and turned them into snowmen, and then John, whatever, manipulated him into to sort of fulfilling that as an adult. But like, I mean, the way he leaves everything is like, okay, so these people now think that that guy is the Iceman. Does he just go wander off into the woods fulfilling?
John just fucked up his life and made him a serial killer.
Yeah, suddenly become the Iceman forevermore, or was this a one-off in that he has this sort of like break of I am the Iceman for this moment, but then I'm a normal guy again? And
Maybe he wakes up and doesn't remember murdering people.
I mean, who knows what John did in this moment? Like, yay for saving that kid, but also, what did you just do to that guy?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they leave it open ended, so we don't know. But do you understand why people think this is like the best arc of the Azarella run? Is it just because it's not part of the main storyline?
I honestly don't see why this would be considered the best version, other than it has no bearing on anything else. And maybe people like that it's sort of a floating in the ether kind of story. It's just a wayward story of John passing through a place and doing his thing and saving people while also punishing the wicked. So, I mean, it hits the beats of a story that most people would like. But as far as it being memorable or especially poignant or having some kind of deep into it, I don't see that, honestly. I found it to be, like I said, I expected it to have some sort of otherworldly connection when I found out that it was going to be a snowstorm like no one's ever seen, which was a big thing about World's End in Sandman. And then wasn't that at all. So I was slightly disappointed, but my expectations were a lot higher, and we're definitely expecting more.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, like I said, people saying this was like the best arc in Azarella's run. But then having read Azarella's run, I actually think High Water is my favorite arc in the run. But I guess besides the first one, I like the prison one a lot because it's just insanity, and you get to see John being really like conniving and clever in prison. And him in that situation is interesting. But yeah, like this one, I mean, it's fine. It doesn't do anything for me other than, yeah, it's fine.
It's underwhelming, I would say, personally, but like I said, I had higher expectations. So if I had not remembered the Sandman story arc and not tried to connect it in some way to think like, oh, is there something there? I would have been like, yeah, it's totally fine. It was only underwhelming to me personally because I thought it would have a much deeper connection. But without that, it is a fine story. Not particularly memorable or amazing, but, good enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's more the like everybody hates the Azarella run, and then they're like, well, that one story didn't really connect to anything, and it's kind of cool, so that's the best one. Like, I think that's what it is, if I had to guess. But after Freeze is over, we get a 2-issue story arc, and this is actually, I like this one a lot. I don't know if it's particularly strong, but I like the B story in it a lot, which is the girl, I think her name's Angie. Is that right? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
She is, yeah, she gets the book of, of fate or whatever, and has to and is reading John's fate. Yeah. And also we get to see young John, which I think is always fun.
Young, punky, devil may care, I don't give a fuck, John.
Yeah. And I feel like Azarello gets this John right, as opposed to the way everybody says he gets John wrong on the other stuff. I'm like, I feel like he kind of nailed the young, like you said, punky John pretty good.
Yeah, I totally think that he nailed his younger self. It felt like it flowed right into him being sort of a devil may care character. 100%.
Yeah, and also I like the little con that they're pulling on Stanley. They're like, just like we don't have a clock. We're gonna take this other clock and say that it's Rasputin's clock, and then make him give us a bunch of money, and then send him on his way and freak him out at the end, make him think that like other gangsters are coming for us or whatever. So I think this is one of the better story arcs. So
I can't believe people would consider Freezes Over better than this little mini story arc, because this was like not only a perfect representation of John, but how he works well with his friends. You know, he gets them to go all in on this as well. And they all together just sort of like pull off this really awesome sort of like grift. And oh yeah, it was perfect.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. So I kind of was like, and this one's in England. I'm like, oh, he like went back to England for this. So
he actually gave like one, yeah, kudos to him for at least putting it back in his home.
He gave us 2 issues in England. But I feel like that's, I don't know, like the character of Hellblazer really just fits in England. And when you take him out of that for 30 issues, it was like a nice breather to come back to it or whatever. So, yeah, I don't know. This one was one of my favorite. Also, I really like Guy Davis's art. I know it's ugly and different than the regular artist on Hellblazer, but he's the guy that did like Hellblazer or Hellboy and stuff sometimes.
I actually really liked it. It was the panels that you showed on Patreon were very like different. Definitely, I want to say almost like a raw sort of like scratchy sort of art. I almost want to say.
Yeah.
Very visceral,
but he does horror. He captures like the atmosphere and the horror well.
It very well. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, he does. I think the first time I recognized him, he does the BPRD miniseries. Like that's from Hellblazer. Not Hellblazer, Hellboy. I'm sorry.
That's cool.
Yeah, so he did like most of that run of BPRD. I think he also does some like Abe Sapien and stuff too, offshoots. But yeah, like I like his art a lot. And the other thing he did that I love is Mystery Sandman Theater. Or Sandman Mystery Theater. That one, that series that was at the same time as Sandman by Neil Gaiman. But it's the Golden Age Sandman.
But I know you like them a lot.
Yeah, I love that series. But he's the artist for a good chunk of it. And so I really have like an affinity for his art. So I liked this arc a lot. With that being said, John is a bit of a bastard to I'm going to call her Angie. I can't remember if that's her name or not, but I think it's Angie. Angie in this. What do you think of the way he treated her and stuff? Did it fit? I mean, it fits kind of young John, I think, but what do you think?
It reminds me of in Wayne's World where he has, the girlfriend that he broke up with, but she continues to hang on to him, where she's like, here's our anniversary gift. And it's a gun rack. And he's like, I don't even have a gun, let alone enough guns to fill a gun rack. And she just refuses to let him break up with her because she's so obsessed with him. That was sort of the vibe I got from this girl, where she's maybe a groupie, maybe just super clingy. And John might have given her the time of the day at like one point, but then eventually he was like, no, but she just wouldn't take no for an answer. So she seemed like that sort of like super clingy. I won't take no for an answer. Like, I am destined to be with you. And he's just like, no, thank you, so.
Do you think that's why she wants the Book of Fate? Not to just impress him, but to be like, I'm going to read it and see that we're together?
Yes, I think 100% she is definitely one of those groupies who just got super obsessed with a guy, and he obviously is not the right person for her, but she just refuses to believe that, anyone else could fit her except him. Definitely like, on a pedestal stardom, even though he's not. He's away like worthy of that kind of worship, but she's obviously so caught up with the John Constantine aura that she's like, yes, you are the one, and I will not only do anything for you, I will do anything to like try to be part of your life. And is a little bit sad, but also completely understandable for that kind of like a groupie character. So I thought, but also a little sad since, how things end for her is kind of a bummer.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, and I definitely I wanted more of this. I like that it cuts off where it does, like it leaves you hanging and leaves you wanting more, but I definitely was like, man, this could have been 4 issues and Freezes Over could have been 2. So,
I would have swapped those. Like, give me 2 more issues of this and her craziness, and a little bit more of young John and his grift versus more issues of people stuck in a bar or whatever.
this is only 2 issues that kind of, it's just like, it seems like it's kind of a fun story, but do you think this story has any bigger implications for the Brian Azzarello run overall?
I would hope so, because the fact that they don't name the guy who ultimately is like, hey, this is, my book. Oh, look, your story has ended. I wonder why. Click. And then, he just takes the book and leaves. And I understand, thank you for trying to do some deep diving on figuring out who this character was, because I was at a complete loss.
Yeah, me too. I had to Wikipedia the hell out of it.
If he really is supposed to be Destiny of the Endless, holy crap, that is so out of character for him. I was like, really? That's supposed to be him? He doesn't. Okay, yeah, okay. As a Sandman fan, I'm just no, I don't see that at all, unless there's extra Sandman stuff that I am not privy to or haven't read, because yeah, that was just kind of weird. 1, how did they get his book? It's literally chained to him. And 2, since when does he kill people?
Well, I guess if you steal his book, maybe you die.
Straight up what? She didn't steal his book. She was reading it. Oh man, it raises so many questions for me as a Sandman fan of why and how and where. And yeah, I mean, I love that little story, but so many questions. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I got you. So you're thinking that the part of the story that's going to have bigger ramifications is the guy that has the Book of Fate, whether it's Destiny or whoever.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so, because you to leave it sort of on that kind of a cliffhanger, but not have any kind of resolution would kind of piss me off if there's nothing at the end of this that, oh gosh, I know you've read ahead. Don't tell me, because
I'm going to tease you. I'll give you a little tease. All right. This story is very, very important and pivotal, some might say, to the whole overarching plot of what's going on with SW Manor and John. Okay.
That's good to know. I also don't like the way you're saying that, because it also sounds like it's not going to be satisfying.
You might be correct in your assumption of that. Yeah. That's all I'll say. I don't want to spoil everything till the next episode of Hell Talk, but
keep us wanting, and I am excited to get into it. But also, the next time we talk, I may be a little angry. We shall see.
Oh, you're gonna be angry. I already know it. So yeah, we get the little 2-issue story arc that has extreme meaning for the arc overall, the run overall of Azzarello's storyline, but I didn't pick that up at all. I thought, this is just a little one-off. You know how back in the day you get with Delano's run or something, someone would fill in and it'd be the dog issue or whatever. But he fights a dog. You're like, okay, that doesn't matter, but it was a fun story, Oh
yeah. But at the same time, you don't know if that actually means something.
Right. And it doesn't really. I mean, maybe it builds a little something in the character that gets played on later on, but overall, there's usually just 1 shots or 2 shots that are not, they're just fun stories, and usually they have different art and, a different writer, but this one just had different art. So I just thought, oh, this is an inconsequential story, just something fun for John, or something fun about John that we get to see. But yeah, it really, really, really is important to remember the con that happens in that story. For future things. Yeah, I'm like, you're gonna be disappointed about we got to find out what happens to that Destiny guy. But the con is the focus of his run.
That was a damn on though. I will say they set that up really well, and I would assume that they got that guy really good to the point where he would never come back, and would assume that somehow he's still got that clock, even if it never actually does what he thought it would.
That's a good assumption. But yeah, anyway, so I never, I didn't pay attention to that too much. But then we move from that story and we end up in High Water. So it's the penultimate arc pretty much, because there's this one, then there's 2 one-shots, then there's the last story arc. What did you think of High Water overall? Like, did you like this flow of it? Did you like how it progressed? What'd you think?
I thought that it was a satisfying arc. It did sort of like hit all the notes of like, you want these people to, well, I mean, if you're the kind of person who doesn't believe what they do, you kind of want to see them not get what they want. You kind of want to see them get what you assume they should, get. the sort of like a righteous punishment if you're not of the kind of person who believes what they do. And I would think that they did ultimately get what was coming to them in one way or another.
Yeah. I mean, the whole, like, there was kind of like racism just in, I guess, smaller amounts. And like, the South part of that's the story arcs that we had, like Doglick and stuff. But then, or like sexism and stuff like that. But then High Water's like, which is funny because they move all the way to Washington to get to the racist stuff. But but I guess, it kind of makes sense. There's definitely like areas of those states like Idaho and Washington and Oregon that have very like right-wing militia, if not white supremacist, vibes to them. So, yeah, I guess it makes sense. But I really liked the flow of this, like as a reader. If I'm reading it issue to issue, when I think, some of the reason why people get confused on this arc is because John comes into town. He's going to apologize to Lucky's wife for everything that happened. She's moved here from Doglick since Lucky killed himself and John was in prison. And then, like, to me, this is a better version of Good Intentions, basically. This is like Good Intentions Part 2 to me. And it's like he does a better version of it in the story. But so when he first gets there, he like goes to the bar, meets the like skinheads. They're being obviously they're like white power skinheads, not like British skinheads or whatever. And so they got all their tattoos and swastikas on their foreheads and stuff like that. So John just has to play along. Now, I think the issue that comes up with this arc is, just like me, people go like, pick your favorite writer and start on any story arc or whatever, and it's John or whatever. And they might pick High Water, and it's the first thing they've ever read of John, and John's just going with all this racist stuff, So maybe that's why people will get like a weird vibe from John in this one, because they don't have the context of 140 issues before it. Does that make sense to you?
Okay, yeah. I mean, when you say it that way, if this is someone's literal first introduction to his character, and he shows up in this town and he's like, you kind of make some sense, and that scares me. Yeah, okay. I could see why some people would be like, who is this guy? Why is he okay with this stuff? And, that makes me mad. I can understand from that perspective, if you don't have his history of everything that's come before, of everything he's done and believes in and has obviously fought against, that could be disturbing. I could see that.
I think that's what it is. I think it's new readers coming in and just starting with like Azzarello's run or something because they know his name, and not really having any of the context or backstory. And so they like literally John is like, you are making sense, after he gives the whole like white power speech. Not John, but after the bad guy gives all the white power speech.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's weird to say. I mean, I understand why he said it, because it's the last page of that issue. and you're leaving it on a cliffhanger where you're supposed to be like, oh my God, is John going to be white supremacist? But then, immediately the next issue is the one where he gets the body and then he starts fucking with people. So
yes.
Yeah. So I think it's written like that to be kind of shocking and edgy for the last page. And also he knew John's going to fuck these people up. So, but for a new reader, that definitely would be shocking.
Yeah, I could totally see that. But at the same time, I also feel like anyone should understand someone in his position is basically someone who's trying to be undercover, and anyone who's undercover has to sort of agree with anything to stay undercover. So obviously that person, if they're trying to get ingratiated into a group that they don't believe in or follow, would say and do things that they don't actually mean. So yeah, I think anyone who thinks that John is secretly racist or secretly actually believes in the idea of what these people represent is a little, they aren't reading the subtleties to me.
For sure. And also people might ask, well, why does he care to ingratiate himself and be undercover? And it's well, because, he's trying to pay Lucky a favor back for his wife. He's I got to save his wife from these guys. So, and also, okay, let me ask you this. I just thought of this question. So, okay, so he burns her house down at the end, but he also saves her. He kills all the white supremacists. Do you think she sees the errors of her ways and ideologies to then be okay, I don't think like that anymore. Thanks for getting me out of that weird white supremacist group I was in?
That depends on what the reason was for why he burned her house down. And I don't know what that is.
Okay, that has nothing to, I'll just spoil it. That has nothing to do with the white supremacist stuff or any of that. It's a separate issue.
Then I don't know, because it was never fully addressed. He never outright said, hey, what you believe in is wrong and you shouldn't follow these people. It was snowball of everyone sort of either dying or being messed up in some way. But she was never actually targeted in any way. Yes, her whole clan, I guess you could say, was destroyed.
That's a word you could use.
her people, her group,
her white people
were in essence disbanded, but it was never he never personally said to her, hey, what you believe in is wrong. All this stuff that you were saying makes you feel like you're special, makes you feel like you're a person of meaning because you believe in these things now, is wrong. All he did was burn down her house and say, I know why Luck killed himself. And she's like, oh. There was really no conversation about her beliefs or her point of view or why she turned to them.
Oh, we got her point of view, because when they're walking, she literally says the same speech almost that Gage says about where she's saying I'm not racist against, or I don't hate black people. I just think they're inferior.
Yeah. He never actually says, by the way, that belief is wrong. And that's why I burned your house down. I
actually think that's the problem. The only thing I wish was better in this was if there was, because at the end, Lucky's thanks for taking care of that. I don't want my wife having these beliefs.
He never actually did anything to change her beliefs. All he did was fuck up with the people around her, and then just sort of burned her house down and left her to figure out what she's going to do next.
Now, I wonder if it's because the reason why he burned her house down, we don't know what that is, but I know what it is because I read ahead. So we basically, it's he's done with her. He's fuck you then. So do you think he was going to have that conversation and then was never mind, burn your house, fuck off, I hate you now? If that's the case, did we just miss it because of that?
So he burned her house down because of what Lucky told him about why he actually killed himself versus what.
Do you want me to spoil it a little? It's not really super like mind-blowing or anything.
You know what? We might as well. If anyone who listens to this, by the way, spoilers, you're going to find out what happens in the next issues along with me. So let us enjoy this together.
Okay, so, and I will say, this isn't even explicitly said. I had to Wikipedia exactly what this was as well. So the reason why he burns her house down, what Lucky tells him is, like, so Lucky's like, thanks, bro. Thanks for getting her out of that bad group of people. I'm sure she'll be not white supremacist now. And then that's where John, like, he could have talked to her before or after this moment until Lucky tells him that, like, also, sorry, bro, we were paid by SW Manor to do this whole thing. So, like, Lucky was told, like, Lucky owed SW Manor money, and so SW wanted to get John. I don't want to spoil why, but wanted to get John. And so he orchestrates the whole Lucky killing himself after John touches the gun, and that's why John goes to prison and all that. So all of this is like a scheme that they were part of from SW.
Including Angie or whatever her name was?
No, that's in the past. Angie honestly has nothing to do with this story.
Oh, okay.
The con of that story is what is important to this whole
Lucky's
thing.
wife.
Well, Lucky's wife is just part of is part of SW's plan to get John in jail.
Oh.
Like, that's why she has a giant house in Highwater, because she got a shit ton of money from SW for Lucky killing himself as part of the plan.
Oh, that's why he burned it down.
Yes, that's why he burns it down, because he's like, fuck your house. That's like blood money on me and Lucky. So,
well, then, yeah, I mean, I personally wouldn't care what she does with her life either.
yeah. So, like, but I wish there was like a moment where he's like talking, like he's like, I'm going to tell you, I got to have some deep conversations with your wife, Lucky, to try to like get this brainwashing out of her or whatever. And then Lucky be like, I got to tell you something. And then do it. And then as John looks at the flames, be like, fuck her, like, white supremacist. I don't give a shit about what she does. She's a piece of shit. And then like leave it at that. Because otherwise it's like not fulfilling, because you don't know why he burns her house down.
Yeah.
And you just think like, okay, so he got her out, or he killed everybody that was like influencing her. But is she so like so susceptible to influence that when they're gone, she falls away from it and then becomes like a normal person or like a non-racist person? But, I don't know.
Or is she just going to learn because he doesn't care enough to set her on the right course?
Yes. I mean, something explicit like that would make Highwater better, I think, personally. Either we have the conversation before Lucky tells him the secret, and we get like John being like, you need to like reevaluate your shit, like you're fucking wrong. And then that way, at least, we got the message across to the reader that, yes, this is wrong. John is not part of it. And, he's trying to do good by Lucky's wife.
Yeah.
Or afterwards be like, I don't give a fuck about this racist bitch because of what she did, because of what Lucky told me. I'm burning her goddamn house down, and she can go fuck off somewhere in the woods and find a new clan to be with or whatever. So that's what I think kind of it was needed. But
we got the middle of like he has done what he set out to do, which is mess up all these guys' plans by either getting them killed or messed up, and then also burning her house down and technically saving her, but also technically not. I guess.
Yes. Yeah, but I do think overall, like, Highwater is my favorite arc of the Azzarello run. Maybe because it deals with like white supremacy directly or something, but I don't know. I really liked the weird juxtaposition, and I pointed it out a couple of times, where like over like the white power speeches that like I don't remember what his name is, the the leader of the gang. He's given, or the general's giving in narration. But underneath that in the panels is like the leader of the gang like kissing his son, and then there's like it looks like super nice and tender, and then they zoom out and there's like a swastika flag behind them and stuff. Like the imagery and the words mixed together in those moments where it's like, oh, it's like a sweet father-son moment, and then you're like, oh, right, they're white supremacists. Like, I don't know. I think it was saying something, and I liked that, you know?
I think it's brilliant because most of the time, and if you can do it right, villains are not supposed to be one-dimensional. And if you can both see them as human and also horrible, I think that's an amazing feat to do. So, yeah, I totally think that all those scenes you described where he is a loving father and husband, but also a racist bastard, is a great juxtaposition of humanizing a devil, basically. Yeah, it's brilliant because it makes you uncomfortable to think that someone who could be so caring and loving to his own child and his wife could also be the sort of person who would shoot someone in the face for being the wrong color in his belief.
Yeah, or selling guns to people of the wrong color or whatever, you know?
Right. Who could draw the lines of like, I will love, protect, and honor the people I believe are worth it, but anyone on the other side of that line is no longer human to me. And I think that's a especially poignant way to describe someone as more than just a straight up villain, you know, like that guy doesn't go home and beat his wife and like, ignore a crying child. He is a loving, caring person if you're the right kind of person.
Right. Which is also scary because it's like, so he is human and maybe he can unlearn these ideologies.
You would think. Yeah. If see any other person as worthy of love the same way his wife and child are, maybe there would be a way to come back from what he believes, but at the same time you're like, he's done horrible things, and is it really worth it to try to rehabilitate a person like that?
Yeah, that's true.
Doesn't get it rehabilitated because he gets shot by the police. So
he gets shot by the police. Yes. I mean, that's one thing. Like, he shows those moments, but they do get their just desserts. There's no like weird, like, no, he's fine now or whatever. Also, one of my favorite things about this is the golem. He turns Wolfman's body into a golem. That's fucking sick.
Do you think that it is actually worse that that guy got shot and murdered in front of his wife and child, or that the leader in charge, Gage, had to blow a guy in front of his daughter? Which ones do you think is worse?
I think each one was fitting for each person. So, like, the government coming in and shooting the leader of the gang and his wife and all that stuff, like in front of the kids and all, is kind of, it's like you reap what you sow. You sow this hate in your house with your family. This is what's going to happen to them, like this is the inevitable thing. And then the same with Gage. It's like he cares about his niece so much that the worst thing that could happen to him is that he's got to like blow SW in front of her so that she doesn't have to blow him. Like he's saving her from being raped or whatever, or sexually assaulted. And then at the end, she's like, you're gay. I don't like you. So it's like the worst thing that could happen to him is that,
That was pretty good justice, I think, in that.
No pun intended. It's just desserts, right? That's what. But yeah, like also like this is the first time we've seen SW. What do you think of him as like the big bad of the story arc, or of this whole, like, I guess, run? I
still understand his reasoning behind giving someone money to buy his own guns from a guy who sells his guns, unless he's trying to do some sort of under the table selling somehow. Like, I agree with Gage in that it doesn't make sense to me of like what is.
Well, it is because it's it doesn't make sense to Gage because he's not seeing the bigger picture. But think of it more like an arms dealer in a war, right? So not an arms dealer, an arms manufacturer in a war. Like, if I supply arms to the Middle East and to America, and then there's no war, well, there's less guns that's needed in both of those situations. But if I cause shit to happen, or if shit is happening in the middle of it, I see a lot of profits from both sides buying guns from me. You know what I mean? Like it's war profiteering.
He gave him the money. That's the thing, is that Gage was saying, you gave me the money to buy from this supplier who is in fact selling your guns.
Oh, on that end, yes, I agree. I think what it is he likes to fuck with people. He likes to see what'll happen when he sends the guy when he sells Jewish guns to white supremacists. You know what I mean? Like, that's why he's like, you told me, like, I was told to sell you Uzis, which are guns made in Israel by Jewish people. And so, like, that's what I think he's just rich beyond imagination, and he can do whatever he wants. And part of that is just fun to see what will happen if this ever gets to a head, and it did in High Water, you know?
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, I guess if you've got the money to just fuck around and find out, then sure, he fucked around and found out.
Just so you know, he does have the money to fuck around and find out. So
nice. Okay, I guess that makes sense. I think that was the only part that I was like, yeah, why would he do that other than to just do it? Like, that
just so chaos. Well, we do see not a spoiler, but like a little teaser, is that we do see he is a bit of a chaotic agent just for chaos sake in the last arc. So just to see what will happen. Like, when you're bored, you just, let's see what happens when we, murder someone.
Squid Game, right?
Yeah, it's Squid Game, exactly. You just at a certain point you get bored with regular shit, and you gotta have the dangerous game. Like, humans are the dangerous game. Let's hunt humans.
The most dangerous predator or prey.
Yeah, exactly. So High Water's done. We're like just over, or I guess we're more than over 2/3 of the way through. Overall, what do you think of Azzarello's run and like this kind of build up so far? Like, what are you thinking?
It's not bad. I don't hate it. It's definitely different than what's come before. I wouldn't say it's a favorite run, but it's had its moments, and I think it's a decent addition to John's legacy.
Yeah, it's different too, because he's a fish out of water in America, and I think that's fun to at least play with for a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if it needs to be 35 issues or whatever, but I like it's a break from the norm, which had been the norm for 145 issues, So it is kind of nice to have that break. And then eventually we'll go back to England with Mike Carey, and it'll be fine. Like, it'll be back to normal. So
this was a weird vacation for him. This was his, instead of a Europe, it's an America trip. Yeah,
it's an American vacation. Oh man, I got just hear in the last issue of like Azzarella's run, just John like is walking off into the sunset, and you just hear "Holiday Rose." All right, well, let me ask you this. Everything we've seen in the run so far, what do you think Azzarello's building to with this last story arc we're going to get?
Ooh, I mean, I hope there's something that's going to happen to this Manor dude, who's obviously the big bad of this arc. And that detective guy, Turo. Yeah. I mean, I hope he comes back too, because he's sort of been like the guy in the shadows this whole time. And obviously he's been pushing John to take care of this issue the whole time. So I hope there's some sort of like a finishing from him as well when everything is said and done. Yeah, I mean, I would like to imagine that something maybe not spectacular, but maybe horrific will be happening at the end.
Okay. And maybe some questions answered.
Yeah. I would like to know a bit more about...
I'll say this. I answered a little bit of the question with revealing what the secret that Lucky said.
Yes, which I mean, I'm glad that they do give that because that is sort of a weird thing to hold away from us. Like at the end of that, to where John's just like, "I'm going to burn down your house, but I'm not going to say why," and she's just like, "Oh, okay, I guess that's fair." And you're like, "Why? Why is that fair? What did you do? What did Lucky do? Like, what did they do?" And then with Destiny and all that stuff. So yeah, I would love to see some questions answered. I would love to see this man or guy get what's coming to him. The funniest thing about that golem is that I always thought that, at least from what I've read, the way to raise a golem wasn't just the inscribing something on their forehead, but you had to write something on a piece of paper and put it in their mouth.
Okay. Maybe he did that too. I don't know. The way I've heard it, at least so they've, in comics, I've read it 3 times where there's been golems. One of them is a Swamp Thing issue in the Mark Miller run where there's like Nazis won the World War II, and then so there's like Hitler's running America, and then Swamp Thing gets raised as a golem to go kill a bunch of people. So in that, it's just a word on his head that he erases. And then same in the Martin Pasco Swamp Thing run, there's a golem he raised that one of the guys raises, and it also is just a mark on their head. So maybe it's both. Maybe you put the piece of paper in, but then if you erase the word, that's what kills it or stops it.
Yeah, I mean, I always saw it as like you have to put a specific order, like that's what goes on the piece of paper that goes in their mouth, is that you tell them what specifically you want them to do. And then I guess also you carve the word on their forehead for them to live. But the paper in the mouth was supposed to be like, that's how they know what they're meant to, like, that's what their mission is. So
okay.
You would have to have put like, hey, kill these people, I guess, on the piece of paper that you put in their mouth. And then only when that's done, when the golem's done, you take it out of the mouth and then they stop being alive.
Oh, okay. Maybe this is like the shorthand version or something.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. That could just be the stories that I've read where that is how a golem was brought to life. So I thought maybe, yeah, like you said, they just kind of like shorthand it. They made it a little bit easier to where he, when he was holding up his saw and was like, yeah, I took care of it, but he actually just carved the words in his forehead and was like, get him.
Yeah, because he tells him what to do. He's like, go in there and kill those guys. So maybe that's it. But all right. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about with? Oh, actually, I did have one question. Do you think, so far from what you've read, that this deserves, you said you didn't hate the run, but do you think this deserves, like, this is considered like by Hellblazer fans in quotation marks, like, we fucking hate this run, just skip it, you don't need to read it, just go from Warren Ellis to Mike Carey and that's it?
Oh, I mean, no, I wouldn't say that anything I've read before this, or, it's not the worst. It's not the best, but it's its own thing. It's John Constantine on holiday in America. And
well, I was just wondering, because after reading it, I don't think it deserves the hate, personally.
I don't think so. I think he's dealt with a lot of issues in a particular kind of way that he does. And yes, he's gotten, I guess, a few different altered sort of powers along the way that have been interpreted. But no, not the worst thing I've ever read, that's for sure. I think there have been a lot slower, a lot of arcs that haven't quite lived up to what we expected before. Like, I mean, even compared to this one, I would say oh shoot, what was that storyline? There was the one where now it's I've lost it. But there were other stories that I would say aren't quite as intriguing as this one has been.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and also I'll say this read incredibly fast to me. Like,
yeah.
this has been as long as like the Jenkins run, and the Jenkins run feels way, 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 way longer to me. Not in a bad way, just the storylines had a different pacing than the Azzarello run. And so the Azzarello run just feels like, damn, we're just running this whole way through. Like, it's quick, it's breezy or whatever. Like, and so I don't know, it's got a whole thing to it.
Yeah, I don't hate. I think it's been fun. It's shown us a different side of John. It's shown us how he can adapt to a situation he's not familiar with. And while I wouldn't say it's the best storyline ever, it's got its place.
I agree. I think people are wrong and I would argue this to Hellblazer fans when they say like just skip Azzarello's run. If you read anything, read Freeze's Over. That's what they say, and then read Mike Carey. I'm like, I don't think that's what they should do.
Oh, they wouldn't say to read Freeze's Over.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But anyway, cool. Well, that's all I got. Do you have any things I missed or anything you wanted to talk about?
Did you have a favorite cover in this grouping that we read?
This is interesting because I'm a big fan of Tim Bradstreet's cover work generally, but usually it's the Mike Carey stuff that I'm referencing in that way. Because through all of Azzarello's run, he does these weird like collages on the covers, and none of them really have anything that super stands out to me, except there's two that are just like it's the one of John in the past, the Lapdogs and Englishmen two issue arc, where John is in his punk jacket leaning against the wall. I like those two covers a lot. But the thing that also always struck me is the High Water arc covers, because they have that weird symbol that's like a swastika, but 4 crosses like put together. And it just is, I don't know. When I see it, I'm like, you know what it is instantly. You know it's about racist stuff. You're like, it's not a swastika, at least until you look at it long enough, and you're like, oh, there it is, it's a swastika. But it I don't know. It's like very eye catching. As a symbol, it's not a swastika, but it is, and it's somehow like you just know it. You just know it when you see it like on the cover. So I think that cover or that like motif with that symbol on the cover is very eye catching. And then also the last cover of it has the leader of the little white supremacist gang with his back tattoo exposed and stuff. But drawn in not because in the comic, in the pages of the comic, we see it, but it's Marcelo Frusian's art, so it's a little bit. It doesn't look as detailed as I'll say as the cover as Bradstreet's artwork. So when you see it like that, it looks like, and he probably did reference this. It looks like American History X, Edward Norton back or something like with all the tattoos.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was pretty striking too. So, there's like, it's weird because there's not really anything that super stands out except the little 2-issue art covers. I like those ones because it's young John in his punk jacket and stuff. But with all the like collages of like what's going on in each story arc or each issue, I don't like these covers as much. But that symbol on the High Water one really catches my eye. And like instantly I know what it's about without having to read it, I guess, or like I know what it is before I get into it. So I think that's a very good thing to have on a cover. You know what I mean? Like it brings you to read the story, right? So.
Yeah, I would agree. I also think that the 2-parter, the Lapdogs 1 and 2, were the best covers just overall of all of them, but that the striking imagery of the High Water ones was also very intense. But I loved the classic look of John in his jacket, just like leaning against the wall with all the graffiti around him was just like that to me. If I saw that, having seen all of the other Hellblazer comics, I'd be like, oh, that's peak John right there.
Yeah, I agree. those definitely stand out just because it is a single picture of John. It's not a collage like most of the other ones. So, yeah, but cool. Well, we'll be finishing the Azzarello arc on the next Hell Talk podcast. And so then we'll get to have a lot of conversation about what the hell happened with SW Manor.
Yes, I'm excited to get to the conclusion of this storyline.
Yeah, it's also kind of funny. We didn't see SW until High Water. We've only heard his name. So, like, we get him at the very end of the penultimate arc, and then the last arc, it's all about him. So it's kind of interesting. But then there's also 2 one-shots on the way to SW Manor before that are in continuity, or they are like part of the storyline, but they're just one-shots. So yeah. Anything else we got to go over?
No, I think we've covered everything. I'm excited to see what comes up next. Thank you, by the way, for scratching the itch of why. Why did he burn down that house?
I mean, I had to be able to tell you guys why, and I could not figure it out for the life of me from the context of that story arc. And then I had to read ahead, and then I was still like, why? And then I had to research it on Wikipedia, and someone wrote it out. So and I was like, oh, that's why. Okay, makes more sense. Got it.
Well, thank you for doing the deep diving. We very much appreciate all your hard work.
I try. Cool. Well, then we'll see you guys on the next one.
See y'all later.
Bye.